Oxford from the inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth. Hi, I'm Abbie, and welcome to this episode of Oxford from the Inside, episode 16. The good, the bad, but always the truth. Today we are joined by Tash and Holly. Would you both like to introduce yourselves? Tash?
I'm Tash. I'm first year or going into second year at Exeter College for French and Italian.
Hi, I'm Holly. I'm also a first year at Exeter and I study German Soul.
Brilliant. Thank you both for coming with us on the show today. And today we'll be talking about Oxford student life and mental health. So I thought I would just start off this episode by just asking you both what a general Oxford day looks like for you. So Tash, do you want to go first?
For me, I often have a lecture in the morning, so I'll get up quite early, get ready to go out. If I'm having a really productive week, I'll probably already have been for a run, but that's probably rare. And I go to the tailor for a lecture. I will walk home with my friends and head probably to the library in college, do some work. At lunch, we go to hall for lunch. And I often have a class in the afternoon, so I often move to a different library to do some more work, and then after classes have dinner in hall as well. And depending on whether I've got an essay due or not, I'll either spend the evening in library or go to the pub with my mates.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. Get up at like 8, maybe do some chilled work before like a lecture at 10. Then after that's done, I might stay at the Taylorian to do a translation or some chilled work. Then normally I'll have lunch in college, like I'll just have lunch in my room. Then probably go to the library to work on an essay that I might have due in a few days. Then I'll probably meet some friends in there. We might go to the Fellows Garden, chill, catch up, then go to dinner, and then head to the pub after. So yeah, pretty similar.
Oh, that all sounds really nice. It sounds like, you've got quite full days. And I think definitely I can agree there with you. Like, the days are very full. And like as you said, Tash, how, sometimes if you're very organized, you can go on a run and stuff. And I was just thinking, how, like how often during your degree, like on a day-to-day basis, would you say you experience stress or some form of anxiety as a result of
Yeah.
like work life, for example?
So I would say personally, I find that stress mainly revolves around kind of workload, which is manageable, and that's a skill that you definitely learn as soon as you start uni. It's kind of like a whole new experience. But for me, my anxiety is more kind of every day. So often I will experience anxiety no matter what I'm about to do. If I have to kind of leave the house or my room in college, that's kind of a moment where I think, oh no. And so one way that I manage that at uni is I actually will just leave once all day and come home only when I'm going to bed if I can. And so I find that that's quite useful in Oxford with the number of libraries there are. Is that you can work in many different spaces, but I don't. If I go back to my room, I'll second guess everything else that I'm about to do in the day. So I think that that's the worst kind of experience of anxiety I have at uni.
um, yeah, I think normally I experience stress around a deadline. Normally it's an essay deadline. So if I've planned my week properly, I can usually avoid that. But if it's kind of to the nose, I will kind of get very stressed around hitting the deadline. Um, if I have several essays a week, that'll be around each essay deadline. Um, and then I often experience anxiety in tutorials because the nature of the Oxford system in tutorials is obviously it's very very intense because you're just face to face with this amazing tutor and one other person who's going to pick you up on every little thing you say, which is a really great way to learn, but sometimes can cause a bit of anxiety. So that's normally where I would experience anxiety, I would say.
Well, that's really, really quite interesting. Like some of the things you both said, like for example, Tash, when you said how the actual Oxford infrastructure, like having lots of variety of different libraries and buildings you can go and study and stuff, is like a way to sort of de-stress and like so that you don't have to keep going back to your room, for example. And like how obviously, even though Oxford is well known for its tutorial system, it's actually you sort of creates a way of creating anxiety for students, and that's actually really interesting to take note of. And I was thinking, Holly, you mentioned how you get worried when you don't like meet deadlines, for example, or like when you're struggling to meet deadlines. And I was just thinking, are there sort of things in place that the university has? So, for example, if you can't meet a deadline, like are there extensions? Do they take into account mental health issues for students?
I think that is the thing that Oxford is excellent with, is really taking those things into account, especially with the last term, what with COVID and things. I think people have found it really tricky to meet deadlines while they've been working at home. And I found last term quite tricky. And a couple of times I couldn't meet my deadline because I just couldn't write the essay, because sometimes you're not in a mental state to do the work. But the beauty of the Oxford system is your academic tutor is also your personal tutor. So they have a pastoral responsibility for you. So if you say to them, I'm having a really bad mental health week, could I please get an extension on this deadline? Or perhaps I might not be in a state to write a 2,000 word essay, but I am in a state to write bullet points of my ideas. And they will offer you alternatives like that. Would you like to write it in bullet points? Would you like to hand it in to me after the tutorial? Or would you just like to have a short discussion? They are really, really flexible. I think with Oxford tutors, because they do care, they have a duty to care. They want you to do your best work. And if that means you have to take an extra few days, or you have to write something in an alternative format, they will do that for you. So they're really, really great with that. It's one of my favorite things about Oxford.
That's really good. And that's like you said, having that personal tutor as someone who you can go to, I think is really useful. It's like someone who you can confide in, who's like not a friend or a college or something like that. So just sort of relating to the whole Oxford support system, I was just thinking, what is there in place in terms of the colleges or the university as a whole as like a support system for whether when you're stressed, struggling with like mental health issues, etc.
I found that there are like a million layers, and I think as badly as I can be doing, I feel like there's still someone else that I could talk to, which is one of the great things I think about the collegiate system and about the support at Oxford. They know that the kind of 8-week term and everything that they put you through, or you choose to put yourself through, is intense. And so they know that they kind of have worked out roughly by now how they should be looking after their students. So you have like peer supporters, which can be people just in your college, in the JCR, so the undergraduate student body, who have had some training and are just there to speak to you. There's usually someone on call that week who you can call at any time as well. There are the welfare officers, and there's the welfare dean. And we also like have college nurses, so there's always like a medical professional. You can kind of send them an email and say, hey, I've got a problem, can we have a chat? And they have been, for me, like kind of a first port of call as well, because they are quite good at saying, oh, you could speak to this person. And then I also have mentoring within kind of the disabled student service, that's university wide, and I know that there's a counselling service also available that kind of runs parallel to that.
Yeah, and in addition to that, obviously you've got the NHS provision, and definitely the best thing to do is to sign up to the doctor that your college recommends, because they are really used to working with the college system and with the college nurses. So for instance, if you're having a bad week, you might, well, what the nurse offers differs from college to college. So I think that's very much a college system, that's first port of call, but often a college nurse will be able to call the doctors and maybe get you in a little bit quicker than just calling normally, because they've already seen you, they've already assessed you, because they're a medical professional. They can say, okay, let's go see the doctor maybe tomorrow. It can be that quick. And the university is really good with working with these doctors and really integrating all these systems of the NHS helping you sign up to adult mental health services, which can be really tricky if you're transitioning from CAMS, for instance, or just haven't been with NHS mental health services before. The college nurses are really experienced with these kind of things because they work with students. Oxford is really good with integrating all these different, you have the college level, you have peer supporter level, you have university level of counselling, and then you've got the NHS. And Tash is right, there was always someone else to speak to. There's a million people to speak to. So it means if you feel like you're not getting something from a nurse or from the counselling service, you can speak to someone else. And it's just really brilliant.
I mean, that's like, it's so good to hear that there's this like hierarchy of help that you can go to, in your times of need. And I think the fact that there's like such a variety of help as well is really good, because, if you don't want to talk to your friends, you can go to a peer supporter. If you don't want to go to a peer supporter, you can talk to the staff in the college. I think that's so vital and so important, especially in, I would say, quite a high, stress environment as Oxford. We do cram a lot of work into those 8 weeks. So I just thought I'd bring up the sort of, I'm sure you guys have heard of the 5th week blues, or what's otherwise known as welfare week. And I was just wondering, so in my college, for example, we might organise dogs to come into the college. So for the afternoon, students can like play with dogs and just sort of de-stress for the day. And I was just thinking, what sort of things are there in Exeter that you can sort of engage with throughout that week?
Each week, this past year, we've had welfare cookies. So they put on the Facebook page that we have, but I think you can email in as well, like a Google Doc, and you send off kind of like a little message to someone, and it costs you nothing, and they print out the little message, and it can be anonymous or you can sign it, and they send it with a little cookie into your page, so like your little mailbox in college.
Have you got anything to add to that, Holly, or just the
I think
cookies are the
that's
best part?
Cookies are the best part, because it's like a lovely little, it's one of those little surprise things that you don't even know you need until you have it. It's like you might come in from a really hard shoot and you're just like, oh, I'll just check my page, see if I have any posts. And then you've got a cookie there from your friend saying, I love you. And it's really nice to just feel really supported. But Exeter also just reiterates the support we already have on offer. I think there's more peer supporters than normal in 5th week. But I think even just the concept of 5th week being a thing is helpful, because it just lets you know that everyone else is having the same tough time you are. And it's like, you might call a friend to be like, 5th week blues, I'm having a bit of a tough one. Do you want to come over for a cup of tea? It's just that kind of, the knowledge that everyone is going through it is just helpful in itself, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think that your tutors, I've often walked out of like a language class or something, and a tutor has said like, oh, chin up, kids. They're like, don't let fifth week get to you. So it definitely is kind of like a cultural point where I think it's really good in like opening up dialogue about mental health, actually, that kind of concept of 5th week. Then you can say, in 7th week, you're like, oh, I'm having a second 5th week. And people don't have to ask too much, or they can ask, oh, can I help?
And that's a really great point to make. I think it's super important to even reiterate the fact that you know, whenever you're feeling down, or you know, like the tutors are always there, and you know, the peer supporters are always there on call, happy to help. And it's that's one thing I think a lot of people don't think about with Oxford. They think, you know, it's the students are some sort of like machine just chugging out work constantly day after day away in the libraries just doing work, and it's so not true. You know, it really isn't. So I think, yeah, definitely that's a really good point to really take it and just be aware of, I think. So I was just thinking, you did talk about how there's a really good support network in the uni, and I was just thinking, you know, are there any changes that you would like to see implemented in the university in terms of access to mental health, possibly students doing surveys, or just would you like to see more help in terms of certain areas of mental health, for example?
I think that mostly what the university has is really great. Um, like we've already said, there's so many different people you can see, but the one thing that they do need to do is just make sure it's signposted, because it is very much ask and you shall receive. But a lot of times people don't know how to ask for help. Like they just don't know how to ask to see the welfare dean, or they're too nervous to, or maybe you're not in a state where you feel like you can ask for help. Sometimes you're too deep. Um, and I think that is very much something they can improve, is improving accessibility, and perhaps even displaying all these different layers of welfare support that there are, and showing, you know, maybe if you're having short-term problems, it's best to go to the counselling service where it's mostly 6 weeks. If you're having more long-term problems, let's go to the doctors, see whether you can get a diagnosis, get you on the disability advisory service, and then long-term mentoring. I think that's mostly what they need to improve, because after, you know, many years of having intense students who love their subject come to Oxford, they've really improved their services, but they just need to make sure that people know that they're there. Yeah, I think that's most what I would say is what they need to improve, in my experience.
Yeah, I think one of the good things about Oxford being a collegiate system is that through your JCR or your MCR, so your student body, you can you have people who have kind of duties. So we have welfare officers, and lots of other different officers who are there to represent you and support you, but mostly kind of be your voice to the university, whether that's just the college or the university as a whole. And it means that you do feel like listened to, and you feel like you can have a voice, and you can say this is wrong. And if you kind of come into Oxford and you think, oh, this, you know, I'm not being supported properly, I feel, it's been my experience, that the university does want to help. And if you pull them up on it, your college or your JCR, they'll say, right, what can we do?
That's really good, and I think definitely it's brilliant that you can essentially, like, you can have a problem and it can be sorted out relatively quickly, because you know, because you're not in Oxford for a long time. And I think, yeah, just to have that all sorted out so you can focus on your degree is very important. And I was just gonna ask, sort of, in terms of the receptivity of the university, like, and like, are they quite quick at sort of responding to change? So, for example, if you flagged up that there's like something, you know, like for example, if you said something about accessibility, you know, oh, the accessibility is not good in the university. Do you think the university would be quite quick at adapting and dealing with that situation?
I think with Oxford, everything infamously takes a long time here. Whether it's with recording lectures, you know, just kind of those kind of things of getting up to maternity, Oxford is not very good at, because it's a very old university. So I don't think that they are especially speedy, but it will happen. They do care. That, I think that is something we can trust in, is that they do care about what you have to say, because at the end of the day, you're paying for this degree and you're paying for the university experience that you want, and they do want to give that to you. I think things can move a lot quicker if you perhaps file a JCR motion, get people to vote on it. That's very easy to do. Do a little bit of student democracy, and colleges normally listen to that kind of thing. You can even get like the welfare reps in meetings with higher up college professionals. Normally gets the job done. You just need to keep pushing them. You have to keep annoying them, and then it will happen.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd second that. It's very true, and I think depending on how big the issue is in the university, trying to get some form of change will take relative time. I know my college is actually pretty good at being, I'd say how receptive my college is one of the highlights of my college. And yeah, I think that's definitely something to know, is that even though change can be quite slow, it does happen over time. And I think it's just something you just got to keep working at. So I thought, just sort of backtracking slightly, about the sort of the services that are available. I was just wondering if you knew some, like, off by heart, like some ones that you think you would recommend. I know there's like a Nightline one where you can sort of, I know people can train to take part in the Nightline one. I don't know if you've heard of this, but I
Yeah,
just thought maybe
yeah.
you could expand on that a little bit more.
So yeah, you have like Oxford Nightline, and I think it was in our freshers packs we got given like a little card, and I think it's smart for everyone to kind of hold onto that, because if you ever think I need some help and I can't call a doctor or speak to anyone, I know I can't speak to someone face to face right now, that's quite useful, and I know that a lot of students train to be involved with like Nightline, and it's just kind of like calling Samaritans, but it's because it's kind of Oxford based, it's people who kind of understand your experiences as well, which can be really, really helpful.
That's really good. And I think the fact that they give you this information in Freshers Week as well is really important. And like you said, definitely like keep hold of it, because you never know when you're in the university when you're going to need that help. So yeah, we've heard some really good stuff today. And thank you so much for, all your input and everything. And I just thought, just to sort of like close everything up, wrap it all up, I was just thinking, do you have any like good advice you'd give to students, sort of general advice to students, but also students that suffer with mental health?
um I think like we've had like a really useful and I think informative conversation, but it's quite easy to kind of smile and say, oh, everything's great. But I think if you're someone, you know that you have mental health issues, especially if you have something that you've managed to get diagnosed, um, you're going into university, and you have to kind of emotionally prepare for that change. And I think that's something that I looked for a lot on open days, and I remember feeling like I got kind of a valuable response at Oxford. You definitely need to kind of prepare for that. If you think of maybe your worst time, think, how can I cope like that at uni? And that was one of the things that kind of encouraged me to put down a depression and anxiety as a disability on my UCAS form. And I was a little bit worried about kind of some discrimination. And I know that one of my tutors said, you don't have to put that. And I said, I'll put it, because any university worth their salt won't discriminate against me for that. And I actually was really pleased with the response from Oxford, who over the summer, before I'd even got my grades, were emailing me and saying, what can we do? And I had one person who was continuously emailing me saying, what can we do? Whereas the other university I'd applied to, I had emailed them, oh, I have a query about this, I have a question, I need this. And they said, you need a doctor's note for that. You need a doctor's note for that. You need a doctor's note for that. So I think it's worth remembering that any university with their salt will say, we need to support you, we'll do what you want, argue if you don't get it, don't be scared to apply to Oxford with mental health issues, and don't be scared to put a disability of any type on your UCAS form.
I would completely echo that. Similar things. I think the danger, personally, what I thought is I'm going to move out to uni and I'm going to have the best time of my life because I'm going to make my own environment and I'm never going to have mental health problems again. Like, come on, it's not going to happen. I think you need to kind of prepare for the fact that moving, and this is a big change in your life, and you might suffer from it. I know I relapsed slightly when I came to uni, but it's okay because the uni has things there for you. So I think prepare for the fact that it might be really tough moving to this new environment. If you have problems already, it might exacerbate them slightly. But the best thing you can do, like Tash said, is just to prepare. Go in kind of already having familiarized yourself slightly with how things work, maybe. And don't be afraid to say, yes, I have mental health issues. As soon as you get there, speak to someone, speak to your nurse almost maybe in fresher speak and say, just to let you know, I have issues and that might be something I might need to come to you about. And know that everyone is going through something. That is the most comforting thing, especially at Oxford, where everyone here is a little bit intense because this is the nature of the degree. Most people here have something that they're concerned about. So don't be afraid to, again, be annoying, ask for attention, say, please, I need help, because the support and the money behind it is there for you. Don't be afraid to claim it because it's there for you. Don't ever think your problems aren't big enough. Would definitely be my biggest piece of advice because people want to help you.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point to make. Like, don't think you're ever like a burden on the university, or you think you're taking up like too much time for someone else. They are there for you. Like, you as the student, you're the center of the university. The university wouldn't be there without the students. So they want to make sure that you have the best time, the most effective and the most efficient time at university. And so, yeah, that was a really great point to make. And also what you said about the UCAS form, Tash, how if you do have an issue, you know, you do suffer with anxiety disorder, for example, put it down on the UCAS form. You know, you're not going to suffer any sort of form of discrimination. Like, it's just so wrong. And I know I went, you know, before I applied to university, I actually went to a Cambridge sort of residential. And even there, they said, look, don't be afraid to put down any sort of health issues or mental health issues down, because, you know, the universities are really, you know, they are responsive to this and they do see it. And it's so important to put it down because they do take that into account. So yeah, thank you so much for, you know, raising that and flagging that up. That's really brilliant. So in terms of this talk, I think that's all we have time for today. So we've learned, you know, some really interesting stuff and super duper helpful stuff about mental health and sort of the Oxford student life. Thank you so much to both of you for, you know, coming on the podcast today and explaining all the stuff. And yeah, thank you for joining us on Oxford from the Inside. Also, thank you to our followers for listening to this podcast and watching our YouTube video. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Oxford from the Inside, and that's the same for Facebook and Spotify as well. So check us out. And also the Facebook page has regular updates, so definitely give that a look at as well. And yeah, I hope you all stay safe and well. And yeah, until next time, bye.